talk about the VOD and the silver screen. Kevin and Tom and Joe know all there is to know, from masterpieces to deep fried tacos. And if the movie sucks, you might hear them say, there's no telling where the guys will take you. Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, cause we already warned you. Better watch out, it's gonna ruin the plot. Real spoilers. Real spoilers. Real spoilers.
Broadcasting from the lush but not lavish studios located in the basement of the O'Keefe Institute for Advanced Film
Wait a minute.
Snarkitude.
This is pretty lavish.
What's that?
This is pretty lavish. I mean, we might have to change the intro.
It's more lavish.
It's more,
No.
well, it's more technically astute.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So should we add technically astute?
I'll never remember that.
So what do we do to get lavish? Do we need like velvet
yes,
walls
we
and,
need
suede chairs?
fancy pillows and
Yeah, yeah,
Hookahs.
right.
2023.
Couches you don't want to sit on because they may look nice, but they're
Right.
uncomfortable as
yeah, like
Yeah.
like the living room in the suburbs.
That's exactly it.
Did our house had because we were fancy. We had a living room and a family room.
Yes.
And so you could go in the family room.
Right.
But you could not go in the living room.
The living room was really like for like gatherings.
Display.
yeah.
If
Living
people
room
came
isn't
over,
for living.
that's
And
exactly it.
the living room was atrocious at our house. Like my dad had gotten on some kick where he was going to be fancy, and so he hired a legit interior
No.
designer to come in and lay out the living room,
Oh, wow.
and it had red carpet.
Ooh.
Yeah, which I'm like, is this going to be a brothel, Dad?
They'd have one of those big like round couches.
Right.
Yeah, right.
I was like, now I'm looking back and I'm like,
Oh.
were my parents having key parties? What is
Maybe.
happening?
Maybe they were.
But it was like a red carpet with this like yellow floral couch.
You know what? Sounds pretty lavish.
And
That
then
is very lavish.
And then we had like the stereo in there was like one of those. I mean, because it's the 70s,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because I'm like older than you guys, so it would have been like the mid 70s. So it was where like the stereo console, where it's like a big giant piece of furniture,
For sure.
with like you open up the lid and there's a
Sure.
record player in there
Yeah.
and slots to hold the albums and I mean it was probably every bit of 6 feet long and
Oh, my dad, we had one
Yeah.
of those for sure.
My
and
grandma has one too.
and then we had all these like little like figurines of birds.
Oh.
I don't know what that was about. It
Okay.
was so weird.
Okay.
But we never went in there. We never went in there. Like, here's how seldom we went in there. So when we got a dog, right, my dad wouldn't let the dog go back in other parts of the house. So the dog could stay like in the kitchen, in the family room, but it couldn't go in the living room and it couldn't go back where the bedrooms were.
Right.
And so like the dog would like literally he would stop like right at those perimeters. Like
And he knew.
he knew.
Okay.
You know? And so then we found out one day, because we never went in the living room, right? We went in the living room for something, probably to put up the Christmas tree or something.
It's the only time. Yep.
And
yep.
the dog had been pissing in the living room for apparently months.
Oh my God.
Wow.
But like it was like we never went in there. I don't know how we didn't smell it, but like I mean some of the poops were like shriveled up and dry. Like that's how long it had been going on for.
That's how raisins are made.
That dog died not long
Yeah.
after that.
Yeah, and so
No, that's very much the same. My grandparents had a front room that none of us went into unless it was like all of the family was there and it was Christmas time. That's
Right.
the only
Well,
time.
there's
we sat in
business
there.
in the front
And
and
party
parties
in
in
the
the
back.
back.
That's
it's the
right.
same. Like we
That's
put
right.
the Christmas tree in the living room, which was dumb because it was like, and then we just never saw the Christmas tree again, right? Like it was like we would go in there on Christmas to open the presents,
Sure.
and then
like,
we'd immediately bring all the
everybody out.
presents into the family room so we could enjoy
I
that.
picture like a massive bouncer with like the velvet rope.
Yeah.
And being like, nope, you're not on the list. You're not on the list. You got to go.
Yeah. Anyway, what prompted all that is we have new microphones,
Yeah.
and headphones.
That's right.
So
If you can't hear us, it's because we have no idea how to use them.
theoretically, our audio should sound much better.
Should.
Not that it
I
was
don't know
ever
how much better it could sound.
Yeah, because it sounded good. It just these are the mics that we've been using in the clip out. And we just got more.
Since the clip out took over our show for 2 weeks,
Yeah,
it's
man.
not the least they could do. They got a 2-week advertisement.
That's right. That was great.
And-
Well, for real spoilers of the clip out.
Well, I don't know. Did you guys share it?
Who's
Did
got-
we-
you'd have to
did we
ask
get any
Crystal.
clip out listeners?
I'm not entrusted with the clip out
Yeah.
social handles. Like that's
Oh my gosh, could you imagine? Chicken tenders joke.
yes,
Chicken tender joke.
Let's do it.
yes. So, but yeah, so we have new microphones, which are
Oh, and we have to say what show this is because
Oh.
I didn't let you get past the
this
Lather
is-
Studios.
real spoilers. Episode 720, Pinocchio.
Pinocchio.
I thought it was a Tony Hawk episode.
Sign me up. That'd be great.
Why is that? Does he do something with 720?
720 is a 2 360s.
His big move is
It's like- it's like
the 900 is his signature
I know,
move.
but
I
you know, if he doesn't
have no
hit it, it's only a 720.
It's true.
See, so
I have
It is-
no idea what you're saying right now.
you know,
He
it's
spins
like
in the air.
snowboarding,
Okay.
Yeah.
skateboarding.
Oh,
they all
like
do.
like a pirouette.
Just like
Yeah,
a pirouette.
there you
That's
go.
exactly
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
I saw him hit a 900.
Really?
One time.
Yeah.
And I was
In
like,
real life?
I feel like so they used to do like it was him and Dave Mira and
Oh, rest in peace.
Matt Hoffman. Like they had like a touring.
Is Hoffman still around?
I think so.
Okay.
Like an extreme sports.
It was like the Tony Hawk Boom Boom Huck Jam or something like that.
Oh, I
it had
remember that, yeah.
It had a dumb name.
It did. But they came to St. Louis, and I'm almost positive either he hit the 900 or Matt Hoffman did.
Okay.
His version of the night on a bike, which is also just insane. Like to watch that guy on
Yeah.
a bike jump off a ramp and like just flip backwards. I was like, you're gonna die.
It was the 90s, man. Everything was extreme.
Rollerblading was
Yeah.
like the
You got to watch. I think I've mentioned on the show before, but there's a documentary about the Tony Hawk video games, and you know those things have made hundreds of millions, if not billions, of dollars. Like Tony Hawk.
for just Tony Hawk.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
He told a story. What he's on a podcast or something
Yeah,
one time,
yeah.
and he said like, "Hey, like, how much do you make from those games?" And he goes, "Oh, well, I went to this lunch or whatever, and they were talking about doing the next game, and they hand me a check, and I look at it, and it's like $12 million."
It's because because I guess what had happened is the first game went into like PlayStation's greatest hits.
Oh yeah, like Platinum Collection or
so
whatever.
it was only like $20. So people would just buy that game, and it was just the amount of volume that those first two games for sure.
Yeah,
I'm not so sure about the third
So
one.
he
but,
like hit some number that he like. This is in addition to him already making millions or whatever he made, and they're like, "Oh, here's your royalties, like $12 million. Here's a check." Like, and then whoever it was like, "What do you just walk into Bank of America with a $12 million?" He's like, "Yeah,
yeah.
Like,
it's the amount of
I think
money
it's all
he's made.
wire transfers at that point.
Probably
one would think.
but the amount of money he's made off that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what the first two for sure. The ones after
first
that
two are the best. I mean,
Yes.
the first two are. There's some other
they
good
have
ones, but
Spider-Man in the second game.
I will
It's
tell you,
pretty great.
I couldn't tell you how many people like around our age, their musical taste was informed by the Tony Hawk games.
I definitely found
Those-
CKY
Yeah,
because of that
like,
because of that game.
That first one though, with all the wasn't like Rage Against the Machine and
I feel like the second
Goldfinger.
Oh, yeah,
and
Goldfinger
all
for
those.
sure.
It was like they had such great soundtracks on these games. Like seriously,
two
the
is the
music.
best. Two is the best soundtrack.
The gameplay was
Yeah.
awesome, but the music soundtrack they got for these games is part of why it became so big. And
you didn't have real bands on video games.
No,
back
Right.
then,
It was-
right?
yeah,
Like,
this
it
was-
rare.
It was
Place-
always like stuff you've never heard of, and you're like, "Well, this is lame."
and this was PlayStation 1, the original.
Yeah.
And it had all these great songs, and the second one had really good stuff too.
Oh, the
and-
second one's the best.
Yeah, it's awesome. But anyway, it's a great documentary, and that one I think is called like Being Superman or something, because you know there's that song in the game that's like
Superman.
Yes,
By
and,
Goldfinger.
By Goldfinger, yeah.
but is it that? Okay, there's a couple. I couldn't remember which one it was, but yeah. So it's like Becoming Superman or whatever, and it's about the video game. And then he has another documentary recently, which
the
is about
second doc
skateboarding.
I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
That second doc, I think it's on HBO.
Yeah, they're
Don't
both
watch
really
the
good.
reboot, which is Becoming Man of Steel.
Oh,
It's not as good.
what about Becoming Black Adam?
Yeah,
Oh boy,
even worse.
even worse.
Might be a reboot soon.
Yeah,
You know, it's funny. I actually just rewatched Shazam, and I didn't. The Rock and Danny Garcia are executive producers on that.
Oh,
And-
really?
Yeah. Like, and I didn't notice it because, like, you know, you're mutzing around or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the credits pop up, and I was like, oh,
So he's been planting the seed
I mean, and then what's that? 4 years ago?
at least.
Yeah.
Huh.
So he's been around that character since the
Well, I
beginning.
know he's been planning it for like 15 years,
Yeah,
but I
right.
didn't realize he had a part in Shazam.
Yeah.
Wow, he was
yeah.
really,
He and Danny Garcia, that's his ex-wife, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
His manager.
Yeah. Were executive producers on Shazam.
There you go.
Speaking of taking 15 years,
Yes.
Pinocchio.
Yes.
Well, he hasn't even done.
Perhaps we could go around the table and everyone can introduce themselves.
This is Joe.
This is Kevin.
And this is Tom. Quick shameless plugs. Don't forget we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, although nobody uses that.
I use Google Podcasts.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How is it?
People on Android. Yeah, it's good. It's really
I don't
good.
know. I use Podcast Addict. I'm Android,
Yeah.
but I don't use
You can add custom feeds and everything, like Patreon feeds and all that. Yeah, it's really
okay.
good.
I use the Apple.
I just know whenever I see the numbers for the clip out, whenever I get the Google Podcast numbers, I mean, they are practically non-existent.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so I'm just like, who's using this?
It's me.
Yeah, it's
What's that?
It's me.
It's you.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
subscribed to the clip out on Google Podcasts. So
it's me.
So now those numbers mean even less.
great.
So you can also find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Real Spoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group. The group is called the League of Show Sharers because we're hoping you will share an episode. It's the easiest, cheapest thing you can do to help the show. People who were kind enough to share an episode over the last, I guess, 3 weeks at this point include Ralph Tribble, Gabriel Lugo, Lane Levanway, Chris Valls, Tammy Lynn Powers Betts, Chris Sanders, Glenn Cougar, Mellon Brewer, Travis Tewitt, Julianne Jordan, Josh Rosen, Christopher Rex, Heather Sachs, Chris Magic Man, Dissect That Film, Rick Ives, Librarian Cynthia, Brent Smith, David Rojas, Geek to Me Radio, Ronnie Castle, Spoiler Piece Theater, Invasion of the Remake, Ryan L. Terry, Binge Movies, Matt Naglia, Mike and Oscar, In Session Film, Dan and Nancy Tweet the Movies.
Hey now.
Chris Williams. I hate the couples that have a podcast.
That's the worst.
Are the worst. Chris Williams, Vertigay 314, Evan McKenzie, James Install, Colby Mack, Feel and Film, Kevin Brackett.
Thank you.
He was sitting here the whole time stewing.
Oh man.
Like,
like,
is he gonna
not
say
gonna
my
do
name? Mice Ears and Batman Rye Guy. You'll notice Joe Batisti's name.
Maybe
is
you should
absent.
recheck that list.
Did you share it like right now as I was talking?
I shared it before I walked
Yeah,
in.
there's a cutoff. There's a cutoff time, sir.
I meant to share it and I forgot. But I did today.
A likely story.
Hard. I mean, how do we expect our fine listeners to share the show when even the people that do the show don't share it?
It's a fair point. Yeah. It's a fair
I
point.
share it twice every week.
Do you really?
Well, I got that
Once
run
is
all
a real
these
spoiler.
Oh, yeah,
shows.
that's fair.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Now, don't,
Yeah. Moving the goalpost back.
don't take out one of your ribs just yet. You know what I'm saying? So where was I at? Oh, yeah. We also have a Patreon. Patreon.com/Real Spoilers, where for $5 a month, you get all sorts of bonus content, way more Matt Basler than anyone could possibly need.
That's the best.
And
I believe that's Matt F. Basler's Real Spoilers Patreon podcast.
It's
just
slowly becoming that.
on general principle, I refuse to say the F. Won't do it.
It's fair.
Yeah, I don't work for you.
You're an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not
Do
gonna
what you
do
want.
it. Yeah.
But we did put a poll up, and the listeners voted, and we are doing holiday horror movies. So we'll do like Silent Night, Deadly Night. I think we
Tom's
might.
old home videos.
Yeah, right. I think we actually might cover Violent Night
Yeah.
because it's getting some pretty good buzz, and I wanted to see it.
Looks great.
It looks a lot of fun.
Do you see it, Tom?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Oh, okay. But I saw somebody say that, like, the debate about whether Die Hard is a Christmas movie? And everyone's like, yeah. He's like, here you go.
Right.
This is it. This will end the debate for you. So, yeah, there's going to be a few holiday horror related titles, and along with Violent Night, I think is going to go up there as well.
Okay. Awesome. I'm trying to remember. I saw a horror Christmas movie a while back. What was it called? Was it Better Watch Out?
That could be one, yeah.
That's a pretty good title.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, Better Watch Out. And
pretty
it's
Is it Black Christmas, directed by Bob Clark?
Did we cover that?
no,
We didn't?
We did the remake
You didn't listen to last week's episode, apparently.
Not yet, no.
Okay.
because I couldn't remember the movie. And so we said things just to irritate you. But yeah, it's called Better Watch Out. It
Yes.
came out in 2017.
Oh.
And it's kind of like Home Alone, but a horror movie. And it was way better than I thought. And it actually stars the two main kids from The Visit.
Oh, really?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess they made it right after this.
Okay.
And it
They went
stars
on the set and said, "Hey, you two."
You two,
yeah,
let's
it
go.
stars the brother and sister, but they're not playing brother and sister again. It's not like, they're playing very different
This
characters.
is like Wanda and Pietra.
Oh,
on
sure.
When Quicksilver and Wanda, and then Cloverfield, their boyfriend and girlfriend, but they were brother and sister. In
No,
the
it was
MCU.
Oh,
Godzilla.
Was it Godzilla? I thought it was Cloverfield.
No, Cloverfield is
Okay, but Godzilla
it is
is very similar
It is Godzilla. They're husband
concept.
and wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're brother and sister in the MCU, which was obviously or the whatever it was.
It was
at that
no, it was the
time.
MCU.
Was the MCU?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It was post Avengers too.
Oh, that's right, because Evan Peters is the Fox one. So yeah, so in the MCU, and it was just weird to see them go from anytime it's like
Right.
you're brother and sister, now you're married.
Husband and
Okay.
wife. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Or like when Tom Hanks and Sally Field went from love interest to mother and son
When were they
Forrest
love
Gump.
interests?
in Punchline, the stand-up
Oh,
comedy
really?
movie. Yeah, and then in Forrest Gump, their mother son. Now, people like to make a big deal out of that. I think it's a little unfair because in Punchline, part of the premise was that she was older.
Oh,
and,
okay,
And,
okay.
and then in Forrest Gump, they needed her to be able to play his mother when he's
A kid.
8 and when he's 38.
Right.
Or however.
They age her up quite a bit.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
like it's not really quite as sexist as
History
it might
has not
sound.
been kind to that movie.
It has not.
Yeah. Which
Which
I think
one?
is Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
Forrest Gump's always been.
It's just very schmaltzy.
Yeah.
It very much wears its heart on its sleeve, but it's effective. Like
Totally.
it works.
It is
but-
funny to see. Like I remember when that came out, it was like this is the greatest movie.
Yeah.
And now you're
won a lot of Oscars.
Yeah, I won
right?
a bunch
I
of
mean,
Oscars.
yeah.
But now people are watching it. I guess in 2022, they're like, this is terrible.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a
this
different
is-
time, and there's always been that is Jenny and Forrest, and is she taking advantage of him? But then it's like, well, are people that are mentally disabled not allowed to have relationships and happiness? And there's that debate where it's just like,
Jenny's also a terrible character.
well, Jenny is a terrible person, absolutely.
Yeah. So maybe.
Yeah. Well, you can be terrible for more than one reason,
That's
or
true.
they're not mutually exclusive. It's-
But that character doesn't exactly lend herself to being sympathetic.
yeah.
We got to get a restaurant out of it, though.
That's true.
Yeah.
So-
That's true.
I
Congratulations, Bubba Gump.
Yeah. We don't have one in St. Louis.
We do not.
Whenever we travel, we have a family rule that you're not allowed to eat at a chain restaurant.
That's a good rule.
Oh.
That's a real good
But
rule.
you could only go there. It's a
Right,
chain,
so we make an exception for
Okay.
if it's a chain that we don't have here. So we don't have a Bubba Gump in St. Louis.
Right.
And we will allow Bubba Gump.
Oh, you don't go to the Applebee's on Broadway?
Right. Yes. Hey, man, when you got kids,
Sometimes
they'll do that. They'll
yeah.
they'll be like, "Let's go to TGI Fridays," and I'm like, "We're in Honolulu. What are you doing?"
Oh, boy, you're going to get the $9 milkshakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Can't wait.
So it's
gonna
like, no,
taste so
we're
good.
not doing that. But Bubba Gump Shrimp gets a pass because we don't
That's
have one
fair.
in St. Louis.
That's fair.
So yeah. Same with a lot of the stuff at Disney World is like that. Like Rainforest Cafe is a chain.
Sure.
I think is
Oh.
T-Rex. Do they have more of those? It's T-Rex is the same people that
Yeah,
do Rainforest. but-
I think there's more than one of those, I think. But yeah,
Yeah.
Chicago is our closest Rainforest Cafe, I believe.
I don't like
there wasn't
Rainforest
one
Cafe.
here?
No.
No? Okay.
We had a Planet Hollywood at one point.
Yeah.
I went to that Planet
yeah.
Hollywood.
Remember with the Arnold and the T2 and the jacket?
Can I tell you that I have bigger hands than Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yeah.
Oh, are those to scale?
I mean, I'm sure he put his hands in there.
Oh, the prints. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought you meant
Not
on the mannequin.
no,
of the
no,
thing.
no,
Okay.
no.
Classic St. Louis. We had a Planet Hollywood, and within 2 weeks of it opening up, the letter T burns out in the sign, and I'm like, just like St. Louis to get a plain Hollywood.
Plain Hollywood.
Just a plain
we
old
get,
Hollywood.
We got Corey Feldman's cousin to come by and do the grand opening. Like,
Yeah.
it was,
You know, the best thing that they had at Planet Hollywood, when it closed, the thing that I missed, Captain Crunch breaded chicken tenders.
Yeah, those weren't as good as I would have thought.
Really? I've never
Yeah.
had those.
Well, I mean, okay, I was a small child at the time, so I
was 35.
I wasn't a chicken tender aficionado as a grown man at the time, but I was like, damn, those were so good.
but you can make them at home now.
I don't want to make anything
the
at home.
same.
Yeah, I want to go to the order. What? Excuse me, my fine sir. One order of the Captain Crunch chicken tenders, please.
When
Do you
they
like that you
open
call it Captain.
Well, yeah, I wanted to be. I don't want to get any
right.
letters.
When they opened the Planet Hollywood here, I was promotions director for the Point, and so we had to go down and meet with them because we were to do promotions and giveaways and
Sure.
stuff like that. So we met with their promotions guy, who was gay.
Okay.
This will come. You need to know
Wow,
that for
okay,
the rest
you
of the
weren't
story.
just like- Hey
now.
Yeah, you need to know that for the rest of the story. I'm not just pointing out gay people. And so
How much promotions did you do?
So the other promotions guy for the river, the other station in the cluster,
Yeah.
so that can make sense for people that
It was like adult contemporary.
right.
Yeah.
So he gives us when we leave little gift bags of Planet Hollywood stuff.
Sure.
Right? And we get back, and I'm opening the thing, and I'm like, holy cow. I'm like, I got a T-shirt and a hat, and I'm like, holy cow, this guy gave me like a Planet Hollywood hockey jersey, which those were like $175.
Wow.
Those aren't cheap.
Yeah, I'm like, holy cow. And I'm like, what'd you get? And he opens his bag, and he's like, I got a mug.
What?
I was like,
What?
I was like, so you think he had a little...
Or he realized more people listen to the.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe you were on a better station.
No, because we were
I
there as a unit. Because we were in the same cluster of stations. So it was like he set up a meeting for both of us.
I will say, though, which station is still around?
Yeah. I like the river, though.
It ain't the river.
It is not the river.
No. That's that 101 ESPN. Or
What are they playing? Christmas music 24/7 now?
God,
What are they?
no, they're ESPN.
Yeah, they're ESPN.
Oh, it turned to a sports network.
Yeah. Well, no, it did. Did it go right from the river? This is such niche.
People who want to hear about Pinocchio are pissed right now. I'm telling you.
Sorry, Heather Sachs. So yeah,
Did it go right from the river to the?
I believe
ESPN?
so. Like the river,
the
like
arch or whatever?
floundered for a while.
Yeah.
But so anyway, Pinocchio.
Well, I will say I did
This
do
is
it.
Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. So
Sure.
I did want to say
There's another one called Pinocchio, and
that apparently is not good.
yeah,
Not
we didn't
not
cover
the
that
cartoon.
one.
The one with Robert Benigni.
No,
Roberto
well,
Benigno?
There is another. That's
That
right.
one, yeah,
That's
that
a
is
weird
another one.
movie.
That was
No.
his big follow-up to winning an Oscar.
Yeah, right.
But Tom Hanks was in the one earlier this
yeah.
year.
Oh, I
This
never
is
even saw
competing.
that
This is the
remade.
Jungle Book movies.
Yeah.
This is doing
Well,
Pinocchio.
and they flipped it on this one.
yeah.
I will say I did do an episode on Escape from New York on the Screen Run podcast. So that if you check them
What is
out,
this? The shameless plug
I
section?
don't
We have
want
to talk about the movie first.
I'm getting there.
I never realized the other day until something popped up in my feed. James Cameron worked on Escape from New York. I did not know. Did not realize
he was
that.
like a second unit.
He was doing like matte.
something.
It was a picture of him doing matte paintings.
Yeah, it's so yeah. Check them out. They're doing a whole. They're doing the Lord's work. They are doing all of Carpenter's stuff, and I don't mean just the good stuff.
Oh, yeah.
They're doing the whole thing. So I might come back for Escape from L.A. We'll see. But yeah, the Screen
Well, you
Run
said they weren't
podcast.
doing just the good stuff,
No,
so that would make sense.
It would make sense.
The best stuff.
Yeah, right. Well, he's got a good run, and then he doesn't have a good run. It was hard to watch this movie only because I was so enamored with the creation and like everything that went into this. I think this is a fantastic looking movie. I think
Looks
it's
great.
I think it's a little dry.
I love this movie.
I thought that you would.
I think this is the best animated film of the year. This should
I
win
don't
the Oscar
disagree.
hands down. This is incredible.
I hated the voice work in this movie.
Oh, interesting.
Oh.
That didn't bother me
I
at
like,
all.
and I normally
voice
try like I always feel weird like critiquing child actors, but he was awful.
Oh, I didn't think. It
And
was
I
bad.
thought like I wanted to punch Pinocchio in the like I hated this kid, and like there's a way to voice that where he's not so irritating.
Right, he's
Precocious?
supposed to be though, because like he doesn't know how to behave, and that's part
Yeah,
of the
but-
lying and the nose growing. He's supposed to be a little jerk,
Yeah, but it's God. I just
and then by the end he becomes good. Like that's the whole growth of like I think the
Yeah.
actor did a really good job because he you were supposed to be like, oh, you're a little.
You're terrible.
Yeah, you're bad. And that's the whole thing, like with the story, like even back to the Disney, because he goes to Stromboli and smokes cigars and does all this stuff with the bad kids and they turn into donkeys. And like he's supposed to be bad and annoying. You know,
No, I don't. So
See, I always saw it
took
as he's supposed
impressionable.
He's not, yeah, and he's not worldly,
Yeah.
and so he's easily influenced because he just doesn't understand things. And
Right.
this kid just came off like a
Yeah,
like I
there's-
just
because he
didn't-
doesn't know. He's
just-
like, yeah.
I had a like, I mean, when I'm rooting for the whale, that's a problem.
Oh, geez.
Like I didn't, and it's a great
Not a whale, he's a dogfish. in this.
It's a great looking.
It's
movie.
unbelievable.
It is a stunning.
Yeah, the
visually.
craftsmanship. I mean, the detail.
Yeah.
On every like the wood grain when he's carving Pinocchio.
Yeah.
And the shavings and the different pieces of wood and their different grain. The attention to detail. This
Yeah.
is phenomenal.
I
mean,
ended up Netflix does have like a making of doc after this that I was like I have to like.
How long is
yeah.
it?
30 minutes.
30 minutes.
Okay.
I think.
Because I'm like, I'm not spending another 2 hours.
No.
on this thing.
No,
But it
it's-
is. It's one of those things where as you're watching it, it's almost like Wallace and Gromit.
Yeah.
Where like when you're just watching that as a movie, you're like, this is kind of amazing, and then you go back and watch just the painstaking process to like move it half an inch and then move it another half an inch. So,
Like, if you don't know, this is stop motion animation.
which I thought this was like computer
CG fake stuff.
generated.
The way Lego Movie wasn't really Legos. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, no,
that's right.
this is like what Leica does. Leica does real stop motion animation too.
And this is Jim Henson, though.
It's said in association with Jim Henson, so yeah.
Oh, okay.
But
I didn't know that company still existed.
I didn't know that either.
Like
Oh,
I,
really?
I thought it had been fully absorbed by Disney.
oh no,
so I
yeah, no,
wonder
they
who
still
this
do
is then.
stuff.
So, but that's a good. Do you think they just bought the rights to the Muppets, and not the whole?
Originally, they had licensed the Muppets,
Yeah.
and then they bought the Muppets. But I thought they
Everything
ended
that
up
went
buying
with it?
all of the Jim Henson Company, but I guess not,
There must
because
be
I mean
something out there.
that's why Fraggle Rock is on HBO and not Disney Plus, and like there are some things that it really screwed up, like Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas.
Yeah.
In the original Emmett Otter, there's a framing sequence with Kermit, and Kermit's hosting the show.
Yeah.
And then they had to cut. I think it's back now, but for
Okay.
years, they I don't know if Disney ended up buying Emmett Otter. They were like, hey, it's a nickel, or
Throw it. We're gonna buy Oswald. Throw in
Yeah.
Emmett Otter. And,
or if they just were like, yeah, you can have the Kermit back for the. But
So where is that streaming somewhere?
I believe it's on Amazon Prime, and
Oh,
it's
okay.
also available for purchase because I snagged it a couple years back.
that's
on
Chris
Vudu
Frank's
for like-
favorite movie.
for like $5.
Is it really?
Uh huh.
It was a TV show, not a movie.
Okay. I call all those things movies. It's not. I mean, it's a TV
You're a
movie.
film critic.
It's a TV movie.
It's like 30
not a
minutes.
TV
That's not a
show.
movie.
It's a Christmas special.
Yeah, but that's
it's
a
like the
movie.
Grinch.
It's
like,
a television Christmas.
Wait,
I
do you-
call
wait,
those
do you
are
call-
short films.
Do you call the Grinch a movie?
I don't know. I think of it as a movie, but I think of it as a
Okay.
short film. But
You're weird.
Well, then all TV shows are, MASH had 220
no, but those are
short
that's-
films.
That's the difference, though. It's a TV series. A one-time special is basically a short film. It's one story contained in one. It aired on TV, but it's
True.
It's not a TV show. It's a
Yeah, but even
special.
the
which-
Grinch is only like 20 minutes.
That's not 20 minutes. It's longer than that.
I don't think so.
I think
You
it's
got
a
to
little
you got to
longer
put
than
in commercials,
Yeah,
right?
I think it's a little longer than that.
Okay.
But that's a one movie. It's a one story told to you. It's not a TV show. You don't. I'm gonna go watch The Grinch, the TV show. It's a
that
short.
would-
it's
that
a
would be-
special.
that would be terrible.
Like Rudolph.
It's 26 minutes, the original.
Without
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
It's a short films can be 15 minutes,
Sure.
20 minutes,
5 minutes.
So a TV special to me that's a one and done is a short film, and I know that it's not marketed that way necessarily, but
Yeah,
it
because
is
they
the same.
showed it on your TV. I could
Right,
never
but-
go see that theatrically, which makes it a TV
Yeah.
show.
Not a
You don't
show.
think they've ever
Not a
shown the
show.
Grinch?
I'm sure they have at some
Somebody
point,
has
yeah.
it, but not originally,
But it's not a TV show; it's a TV special, which is
which is TV.
I would
yeah,
not
a
consider.
made for TV movie. I mean, you. Can,
I wouldn't consider the Guardians a movie.
What do you mean?
The Guardians Christmas special. I wouldn't think of that as a movie.
Yeah.
Well, they're all the exact same thing. I mean, it's just semantics. I'm not. It doesn't matter one way or the other. But those telling us, I mean, that's a short film it's a TV special, a holiday special. It's a.
I think it's
Yeah.
a TV show.
I will agree with it. It's a TV special.
It is.
Yeah.
It is special for TV. That is true.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's a special. They're all
TV.
specials, but it's a short film.
Okay.
It's the same thing. It's just where it airs would make it a TV special. Versus, you can't put a short film on the theaters. You'd have to put 10 of them together or something.
Yeah,
like
those are called film fests.
Yeah, you'd do a short film at a film festival. But that's the thing; they don't show it theatrically. That's why the TV's the medium. But you are still.
But I also
telling-
think you got to think of the times, though, right? Like TV was a million times more accessible than going to the theater.
Yeah.
So they would put them on TV as a TV show.
Were there commercials during it? I don't.
Yes.
I don't get commercials during a movie.
Well, what is this? So, what is Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio? Is that a TV show? It's not. It's not a movie in the theaters. I mean, maybe they did because of the awards, but what is that? TV show? TV special?
I think now that is an interesting question
Yeah.
because the landscape has
saying.
changed.
But when Grinch was
But-
created, the landscape was TV movies.
Yes.
Right,
yes,
but
and
mediums change, but
Yeah.
the content. If you made a short film and didn't put it in TV, and it was at a festival, and you called it The Grinch, and this is The Grinch, a short film about a guy that lives on Mount Crumpet and comes and steals Christmas.
Yeah.
it could be the same story if you never knew about it from airing on TV.
Sure,
and
right.
it played at a fest. You would agree that could be a short film,
Right, because
it's just
that's
where it aired.
because that's where they put it.
Yeah. So technicality, but format-wise, to me, I don't know why, but as a kid, I just think of it as a short film.
Okay. Like I've never considered Looney Tunes to be a TV show.
Oh,
What do you consider that?
what do you consider that?
Well, I mean, those originally all aired theatrically.
You mean the original?
Yeah, so they've
wow.
they've repurposed them.
Yeah.
Like I don't consider the Three Stooges to be TV. I
Oh, see,
consider
I
them to be
do,
film,
but I hear
because
you.
they were created. They were two reelers. They ran in theaters, and then
But
because
I watched them on TV.
Yeah. I mean, most things. I mean, I've never seen Lawrence of Arabia in a theater,
Yeah.
but I consider it a film.
Yeah.
Right. So
That's interesting.
But those were all intended to be theatrical. Those,
Yeah.
those
I
original Looney Tunes were all, were
I
all
consider
released
those to be
theatrically.
TV shows.
Yeah. No, I don't consider it to be TV shows at all.
This is such an interesting. It really is fascinating.
We're
I
having
mean,
an existential crisis.
it's all perspective, though, But anyway, so what were we talking about? What was the
Pinocchio.
What was the special we were talking about that brought this all up?
Oh,
What did I call a movie that you said was a TV show?
I think you called Grinch a movie, and we were like,
oh
it's
no,
not-
the otter. The otter.
Emmett
Emmett Otter.
Otter.
Yeah, that's
okay,
right.
So,
And I said-
okay. So,
Yeah.
all right, so
Okay, so wait, Emmett Otter, Jim Henson, back. Okay, we figured it out. We
So this is-
followed our
so many
breadcrumbs.
tangents we got lost.
right? This is stunning, painstakingly animated with love stop motion animation that feels like a Guillermo del Toro movie. Like it looks and feels like
Yeah,
GDT.
I agree. Yep.
But it's stop motion. It's a different medium than we've seen him work in, and so it's amazing that those animators were able to capture a Del Toro film in animation like this.
What's interesting is when you're watching that behind the scenes doc, Guy Davis, who's a comic book artist,
Is he related to Jim Davis?
I don't know. No, probably.
Interesting.
If you look at their art,
Is
probably
he related
not.
to Mac Davis?
Yes.
Okay.
As a matter of fact. But Guy Davis worked with Mike Mignola a lot. Like a lot of the Hellboy stuff, a lot of the BPRD stuff, Guy Davis did the art
Hey,
for.
this is a family show. It's Heck Boy.
Do I have
Boy,
to censor
sorry.
that?
A lot of that stuff Guy Davis did the art for. So when you see, and I didn't know that he did the storyboards, but then when you see, I've seen that guy's art so much that now when I see the characters, I was like, oh, that's so weird that it does look like a Guy Davis
Gotcha.
illustration come to life. But it's crazy to look at when they're doing that. Again, we're going to move it half an inch, and then we're going to move it half an inch, and then I could not imagine just the.
It takes a person that does not have
They said
ADD.
15 years to get this all together and rolling.
It's like watching your kids clean their room.
This had to have taken,
buddy.
I don't know what the production, I don't know if they said it in the special. I didn't catch it, but if it was like 4 or 5 years, I mean, this has to take a long time to
It's a
produce
big
it.
part
It's-
of these people's lives.
Yeah.
But yeah, to your point though, is you get like the sprite, or you get the death and all these things, and you look at them, you're like, well, that's
Yeah,
right
so
out of a Guillermo del Toro movie.
He's huge on creatures, right?
Yeah, that's his jam.
Pan's Labyrinth and Hellboy and all of his stuff has different creatures, or most of it has creatures in it. And so when you look at the
Blade 2.
yeah, exactly.
Actually, no, Creatures in Blade 2.
So when you look at the creature design within this movie, and the dogfish, which is like the whale that you would know
Yeah.
from regular Pinocchio, they're gross and they're creepy.
Or they're really pretty.
That monkey.
That monkey
Yeah.
is terrifying.
Like the monkey's really scary. The dogfish thing is disgusting with the bubbles and the stomach acid.
Yeah,
and-
right.
But there's like growths on the inside. Like, I mean, it's nasty and it's
But then you get the Sprite and Death, who I think are
Well, sure.
absolutely stunning to look at. Like
Sebastian Cricket is really cool looking.
okay, so Jiminy Cricket is Disney, right?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
they created Jiminy Cricket. Right?
I think there's always a cricket in the story,
But Jiminy,
Jiminy
is their
is-
creation.
but they were being cutesy because that's a saying, Jiminy Crickets, and so
Right.
they were like, oh, we'll call him Jiminy Cricket. Like
Okay.
they were being
yeah.
cute.
So when he called him Sebastian,
Yeah.
Sebastian
J.
T, or is it J?
well, I think it's J for a reason,
Oh,
and they just can't say it.
yeah.
But it's
Ewan McGregor.
he's the best part of the movie
He's really good.
I would agree.
I
Yeah.
love the gag of him getting crushed or
great.
swallowed, like constantly just getting eaten.
They-
and when he's about to sing a
I
song,
love that they keep shutting down his song. They should have done it a little bit more. It wasn't quite enough of a running gag,
Sure.
but I did like the running gag of he keeps going. Because the first time he goes in to do it, I'm like, another song? Because that's the other thing. The songs in this movie are trash. They are just
really,
awful.
not
what
very
is this? What is
good.
this? What is this? I thought it was really funny.
Yeah, they like
I liked it.
the songs. They sound like they're making up the songs as they're singing.
But it's
them.
not really a musical. There's a few songs sprinkled throughout, but the movie doesn't have.
So we went from TV shows or movies, but this movie with songs is not a musical.
It's not. It's not in the traditional like Joe. You're not a huge musical guy. Like in a musical,
Can I tell you that
there's-
Leanne actually said while we were watching this last night, she was like, "Man, I feel like you've watched a lot of musicals," and I was like, "Yeah, I sure have." Over the last
why
20
broaden your horizon.
Is there something you need to tell me, Joe?
Right.
But it's not. So for people that don't care for musicals, there's not one every. It doesn't. The entire story isn't told through songs. There are songs in it, but it isn't like every bit of dialogue.
It felt like we were going at one point bouncing from like song, 5-minute interlude, song, and I agree.
These songs are awful.
They're not good, and the Disney, it's hard not to compare this to the Disney one because that's probably the most famous iteration.
Oh, for sure.
Of Pinocchio.
Yeah.
And that one has very Disney centered songs, right?
Yeah.
Like the string song,
Got No Strings,
got no
Time
strings,
Me
When You
Time
Wish
Me
Upon a
Down.
Star.
When You Wish Upon a Star, which I
Yeah.
think Disney still uses to
Oh, yeah.
this day. Like it's part.
I mean,
of,
it was the opening of
the castle, right?
and it was the opening theme song to the Wonderful World of Disney
exactly.
forever, yeah.
Right. So, to me, and I love Guillermo del Toro. Like, I think he is when
Why
he
don't
gets.
you marry him?
All right.
He's already married.
Can I live in that house? Because yes, please. I think when he is able to, when he is committed to something and he is able just to like focus on that thing, that dude is untouchable.
He gives everything 100%.
I agree. We talked about Nightmare Alley, which I think we all dug, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I love Nightmare
Yeah, I
Alley,
thought it was
yeah.
fantastic. And there's no creatures. There's some weird stuff in that movie, but
That's like the least Del Toro movie. It's got the vibe, like the creepy vibe.
but he was
it's-
dialed in.
Yeah.
So I think if he had just dialed in on the story and not worried about, I don't know, it almost feels like he was trying to compete with the original Disney one, but I don't know why.
Well, I think it's I get what you're saying, and I think because it's so iconic, every choice is like we can't do that.
Right.
Is it too close? Like, and so you end up kind of like, well, I've got to do something totally different so I don't get compared. But at the core, you're still telling the same story, so that's difficult to do.
I really respected that though. Like I agree. Like,
But
this
you don't
went
want
such a different direction.
But you don't want to end up making a different choice just for the sake
Yeah.
of
Yes.
making a different choice.
But I figure, so he adapted this though. So obviously Pinocchio's a really old story.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
almost all Disney movies are old stories. They're
Right.
not originals, right? So,
Can we get a Disney one where the Little Mermaid turns into foam?
right, exactly. But I mean, there's there's the Hans Christian
There's
Andersen fairy
there's a
tales.
porn parody where
Oh, it's not. That's,
she ends up covered in foam. I don't know if that's quite the same
If
thing.
it comes out as foam, go
Yeah.
to the doctor. That ain't right.
So I think that he's taking more of the fairy tale approach, where this is closer to this is the book he's adapting, the story he's adapting. Those beats are in that book.
So does he, instead of going to the island of misfit toys, does he go off to Nazi Germany?
The
I
Island
don't.
of
Well,
Misfit Toys
first of all,
is
that's not a
Rudolph-
great movie.
That's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
What did I say?
Island of Misfit
Oh no,
Toys.
I'm sorry. The
circus.
Yes.
Or it is the island of.
but
It is
when-
an island. Or
but when he
whatever.
goes
Pleasure,
Pleasure
Island.
Pleasure
Pleasure
Island.
Island.
That's also a different movie.
Yes.
But when he hooks up with those boys,
You don't want to know what that nose turns into.
I know. That's on video. But like turning into a donkey and things like
Yeah.
that, like none of that is in this. There's none of that.
Right.
He goes to like Nazi war camp in this one. Like, is that in the book,
Well,
or is
it's
that a Del
Ital-
Toro
it-
thing?
So
Well, no,
this
because-
takes place in the 1930s.
I guess it
so
wouldn't.
it's-
I guess it wouldn't go.
Yeah, because
Nazi.
it's
Yeah, right.
hundreds of years
That's
old.
fair,
So
that's
no,
fair. Right.
he did not go to Nazi Germany, and hundreds of years ago.
But this
Yes.
is who's the Italian guy?
Roberto
Mussolini.
Benigni.
So this is So this is Mussolini, and takes place in Italy, and so it's set in the 1930s, and so everything is period appropriate for that, and they're at war, and there's bombs going off and everything. And I thought that part with the son was really touching. I mean, that is not something I expected in the story of Pinocchio, and usually Geppetto's like, he doesn't have kids and he wants a kid. Well, in this movie, Del Toro gives him a kid.
He takes him away.
And shows you how much he loves this kid, and they're so great together.
Because that kid's not a dick.
It's true.
He's like,
You're
I wished for Carlos back, not
Right.
this.
Not
What
this.
is this?
Look at this psychopath.
But, man.
You're not supposed to love kids, and you're not supposed to love kids.
Both are correct.
Both are true.
Yes.
So, man, that was a heartbreaking because you knew it was coming. They show you
Right.
him at Carlos's
Yeah,
grave,
like-
and they give you 10 minutes of him
Right.
and Carlos.
Normally, in a kids movie like this, when somebody dies, it's like in the first 3 minutes,
No.
and you don't really. They're like, oh, and his son had died years ago. Oh, that's sad.
Right.
And it's like, here's his son, and how adorable and sweet he
Right.
is for 10 minutes, and then
By
like,
the way, we're
now
gonna drop a bomb on him.
Yes, now we'll drop an anvil on his head.
So it's like, I mean, they built it up to take him away
Yeah.
and to show you the heartbreak. So I think it was very moving and well handled with the relationship and showing you how much Geppetto loved his child. And then so you see the agony he goes through. And so basically they're at a church working on a statue of Jesus on the cross and
A crucifix.
yes, a crucifix.
For those of us that went to Catholic schools.
Correct.
And so they're working on that, and then all of a sudden you hear this rumbling in the background, and there's planes going overhead, and the kid has found this perfect pine cone they talked about finding, and they're so excited about it. And anyway, they go outside, and all the bombs are going off, and Geppetto's like, let's hit it. And of course, Carlos goes back for the perfect pine
Also,
cone.
I will say,
And it gets bombed.
but why would Geppetto let him go back in there?
I don't... he just did it, you know. I think
I guess.
he was watching to make sure.
I guess that's
you know,
true. He
seeing
was-
Plus, they weren't
distracted.
a target, right? They
They did
movie
say
even says
that, yeah.
that they just dropped their bombs to lighten their load. Like they didn't, they weren't necessarily even a target. So going back in the church,
You wouldn't have thought.
you
Yeah.
would, like that's not necessarily more or less dangerous. That bomb could have just as easily landed right outside of the church.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That's fair.
So, but horrible, and you see but you feel the agony Geppetto's going through. Like they did a great job building that up, and then that scene again, animation wise, incredibly
man.
impressive. Where Geppetto's in this drunken state, and he's like, the pine tree is now grown by Carlos's grave, and he's like, I'm gonna get him back, and so he cuts it down.
I
and
do like the-
Sebastian's
Sebastian.
living in there.
Also,
made it his
maybe,
home.
maybe
all
don't
cozy.
pick another name of another Disney character.
Yeah.
that was just their kind of F you.
Right.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, after watching that doc, and they were saying like what we wanted to do.
What's Up doc?
Oh, I would love to watch. Sign me up. When they were like, he starts off carving Pinocchio's face, and it's perfect and it's pristine, and then he's getting drunker and drunker
That's
as
great
he's doing
detail.
it, and then like you
So
can
the other
see
side of him is not
as
Yeah.
I was like, dang,
They made
that
it
is-
asymmetrical on purpose. It started off with the ear, and it's perfect, and then it goes to all wonky.
It gets wonky.
It's
I was
a
like,
great,
that is-
and I like the design. Like we're so used to Pinocchio. Like in the Disney version, he looks like a boy. He looks
Right.
like a human kid, and just made out of wood.
Yeah.
But in this one, he looks like Groot.
He does
I mean,
look Groot, yeah.
it's like I would. They could do a baby Groot and Pinocchio crossover.
Please don't.
But I like.
Yeah,
the-
you'll get the boy version of Pinocchio. They're both Disney. You dunce.
I like that it was just different. I love how Del Toro put his own spin on this, and it wasn't trying to make it like anything that you've ever seen, and it follows the story beats. And this book specifically that he found, I don't know who wrote this story that it was adapted from, but they weren't trying to do anything else. Like Del Toro wanted to tell the story of Pinocchio, and I feel like he made it his own thing. It was unlike any other version I've seen.
That is, and I think that's the factor for me that like kind of ramps this up. But I do agree that like it's a little dry. I don't like the songs.
Yeah.
The voice work, I thought the voice work was great. I think everybody.
I just really didn't like that kid.
That's fair. That's fair. He definitely has like a squeaky. I was gonna say in my head I was like squeaky Fromm, but that's not.
No, that's
Hey, a
That's
good
very-
singing voice.
very
So
different.
I thought he was good.
But
I didn't like that style of singing.
oh, okay.
That child falsetto
Oh,
thing.
sure,
It's
sure.
just like nails on a chalkboard.
But this
to me.
this voice cast, is
David Bradley, who you know as Filch from Harry Potter.
Oh, see, I went Game of Thrones.
Well, yeah, and then the
Yeah.
Red Wedding bad guy, whatever that guy's name is. You would know him from that stuff and other stuff, of course.
Sure.
But he does a great job as
Do
Geppetto.
you know who he is in Hot Fuzz?
Yeah, he's
He's like the guy that has like the arsenal when they go to check. You know, the guy that has like the mine that like rolls over but doesn't ignite.
oh
That's him.
okay. I
The
knew
guy
he was
the
in
guy
that
that can't speak speaking
yeah,
no English.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
okay.
him.
That's
Yeah.
funny. But he's been in a bunch of stuff. But I thought he was great as Geppetto.
I thought he was
again
great.
the heartbreak, feeling that agony and the anger, and I thought he was phenomenal. Then you have Bern Gorman, who's the guy in Pacific Rim, who's like I think he's the one with the cane. He's not Charlie Day. Charlie Day and Bern Gorman work together in those Pacific Rim movies.
Who was he? Who was he in this?
He's the priest.
Okay.
And then you've got the Podesta, which is like he's like a police officer or something.
Is it
Ron
Ron
Perlman.
Perlman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, but he's called Podesta. But I don't know what.
I thought he
role
was like
played.
he was like a German or Italian because they definitely there's Nazi salutes in this movie, which I was
But it's
also
not
like,
Nazi. It's Mussolini.
yeah, but it's the
Hitler
same.
based that on other dictators like Mussolini, right?
I don't
It's-
really know the origin of
Because
it.
this is
I
15
guess
years
that's
before.
true,
It can't.
but yes,
they
you're-
took that from this. See, that's why it looks so familiar.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that makes sense.
But anyway, but he's like some kind of like he's like police or military. And so you see like all these kids that are going to war. They've enlisted, and his son is one of them, who's another Candlewick, who's Finn Wolfhard.
That's
from,
what I thought. Yeah, when I saw his name, I was like, well, that could only be one other person.
Right, from Stranger Things. John Turturro is Dottore. I don't know who that is.
Oh, I don't know.
I know who John Turturro is, but
Yeah, right.
Dottore. I don't know. Kate Blanchett is the monkey.
That is the
Spazzatura.
funniest part of this whole thing is that I think that she said in that interview, she said we were working on Nightmare Alley,
Right.
And she's like, and he was already working on Pinocchio, and she was like, I have got to be in this movie, and he's like, all I have left is the monkey, and she was like, okay,
But I like though. But they so
Like Neil Patrick Harris and Cloudy with a Chance of
that's right,
Meatballs.
that's right.
But what's interesting about this is that she actually got to do a little bit more because Spazzatura, this monkey that is with the carnival, he puppeteers these different marionettes and they gives them voices. And so as the monkey, Spazzatura doesn't speak; it's just monkey noises. But then when he moves the marionettes. Yeah. They do Kate Blanchett voices.
Yes.
And so it was just interesting. She got to actually do some voice acting.
Yeah.
I thought that was an interesting character choice.
It is kind of crazy though if you think that like an actress the level of Kate Blanchett, where she's like, where Del Toro's like, all I've got is a monkey left. She's like, okay,
Yeah.
like that's great. That's pretty dope.
Love it. Tim Blake Nelson is the Black Rabbits. Every time he dies, there's these Black Rabbits playing cards, and he's
the leader.
He's Buster Scruggs or whatever from the Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
I was like, he's the leader from the Incredible Hulk.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Christoph Waltz plays Volpe, and so Volpe is Stromboli in
it's the
the
same
Disney
character.
Pinocchio,
Yeah.
is the circus guy. And so you saw in the making of thing that they had this guy that looks like Stromboli from the Disney. Big guy, big beard, and deep voice and all that, whatever. And they had designed all the puppets for the movie and all the
Right.
different faces and everything. And Del Toro's like, I like the look of this guy over here.
They put all this time and effort into this puppet, and then you only see him for like 2 seconds.
He's like the strong man in the
Yeah,
circus,
right, right.
is, in a couple background scenes or whatever. But Christoph Waltz plays Volpe, who is the bad circus, the antagonist of the story. Tilda Swinton plays the wood sprite and Death,
Yeah.
two other very cool looking
Oh
creatures.
yeah, those are my favorite looking characters.
Tom Kenny, who as soon as the pirate Geppetto goes out on the water when he gets eaten by the dogfish and all that,
Yeah.
and this pirate, because Tom Kenny does the voice at the beginning of SpongeBob.
Yes.
Aye, kids, and he's doing the exact same pirate voice. And then he also plays Mussolini, a character called Right Hand Man. But yeah, the sea captain, he's doing the SpongeBob sea captain voice. And Alfie Tempest plays Carlo in the beginning.
Yeah, that's Tom's favorite character.
Yeah, well, no, he likes Carlo.
Oh, Carlo's
He just doesn't
fine.
like
Yeah.
Pinocchio.
Gregory.
The problem.
Yeah, I guess it's really just the kid I don't like.
Oh, okay, so Gregory Mann plays Pinocchio / Carlo, and then Alfie Tempest does Carlo voice as well. So
One of
I
these a
guess,
singing voice, maybe.
yeah, you're right. Maybe one of them's a singing
Yeah.
voice. I don't see it on here, but that's a good call.
Yeah.
So
It's a crazy
the cast
cast.
is stacked, and I thought they did a great job. So the thing is, I think you have a tough time because Pinocchio is so beloved by Disney again.
Yeah.
So people think they know what Pinocchio is from that, right? And so if you get anything different, it could make people go, "Hey, what is this?" But like with the story of Pinocchio, the Del Toro feel and this amazing stop motion animation and the voices that I felt fit the characters. Like I thought it all came together really naturally in a way that didn't take me back or go like, oh, I didn't compare it to other Pinocchios. I just thought this is this amazing world that's been meticulously crafted, and I thought the story was really good. Like I thought they went places that were darker and more serious than the other Pinocchios we've seen, which which was kind of cool to explore those things. Death, more instead of being like, oh,
I like the idea of
brushing it
like
aside.
he can't die, but he does, but he comes back.
Yeah.
But it's there's still a consequence. You know?
Sure.
And I like how every time he came back, he had either missing feet or a bullet hole in him.
Oh.
They would bring him back in this way because he's not alive. So, his existence is this magical. The wood sprite, Geppetto is crying, and the wood sprites are traveling through the forest.
I thought that was like, I forgot. Like I had to think. I was like, how did Pinocchio become a real thing?
Yeah, the eyeballs with tails going through
but
the forest.
I honestly, like, I was drawing a complete blank. It's been decades since I've seen Pinocchio. So I could not remember to save my life how the puppet...
That's the blue fairy he's wished upon a star. That's the whole wish upon a star, and the blue fairy comes down.
And it's like, how... And then as soon as Leanne's like, the blue fairy, of course, here comes...
The wood sprite,
the wood,
which is
very blue as well.
Blue and amazing looking design. And grants Pinocchio this life, but the life is he's not alive. He's not a real boy. He has this otherworldly magical existence. And so if he dies, quote unquote, if he gets shot or exploded or whatnot, he goes to this.
I feel like if he gets exploded, he ain't coming back.
But his exploded. I mean, yeah, if he were in a million pieces, I think it'd be tough because he comes back with the damage.
Right.
But in this one, he explodes. Like if there's an explosion, he flies through the air, like cartoony wise.
Yes, very Looney Tunes-esque.
And so he goes to this afterlife, this kind of in between, it's
temporary, basically.
Yeah, this temporary holding spot with these rabbits that are playing cards and everything, and then a timer, an hourglass ticks down. There's this little bit of it's like a respawn in a video game where you're waiting to be respawned, and then he comes back, but with the damage. So it was a really interesting way.
And each time it takes longer to come back, right?
That's how I interpreted it.
And in the end, it was a real long. It never seemed that long as in the end when he's like, I got to go back.
Right.
But I thought it was really cool and a cool visual thing to follow along and see the damage that he's taken.
It's also, we should say, the end of this movie is kind of a cursed existence for Pinocchio.
I know, right?
Where, at the end of the other one, it's like, I'm a real boy. I'm going to be, I'll grow old. You'll grow old.
A curse of its own.
Correct.
Yeah.
Where this one, he's just going to keep on going. And
maybe, but that's what...
Walk the earth like
Kane from Kung Fu.
From Kung Fu.
But that's what Sebastian J. Cricket says, is he says, do I think he'll die someday? He goes, I think so. But that means
we don't know.
He really is a real boy
someday,
then, right?
But what is someday when this immortal walking tree just has to bury his father? He carries around the dead body of his best friend in his chest, and then he had to bury his pet.
It's a Del Toro movie, so you're going to get some of that, right? It is very much not a Disney-fied movie.
When Sebastian's like, and then one day I wasn't moving anymore. So
he found me by the windows.
I was no longer.
I'm like, then who is writing the story?
Right, but it's he still has the spirit where he carries him around.
No. It's totally.
But it's a Del Toro way of it's sweet. It's very sweet, but in a Del Toro sweet way, right? It's not
put
your
me
typical...
in his chest, and now it's where my body disintegrated.
What's Valentine's Day look like if you're married to
That's
Guillermo del Toro?
I'm sure it's very romantic in its own way.
I got you this finger.
I got you the beating heart, the still beating heart from whatever, your favorite mystical creature that I've had the Jim Henson Company craft for me.
Yeah, he crafted a 2-scale mythical, unicorn heart.
And now this puppeteer will sit here and puppeteer the beating as we eat dinner.
As we see, and squirt blood out of the valves.
Would you like ketchup? Boop, boop, boop. So it goes through the beats though of Pinocchio is being a little jerk, because he doesn't know, right? And so he's doing his own thing. And I really liked the part where I thought it was hilarious when he first comes to life. And Geppetto's freaking out, which makes total sense.
I appreciated it.
It was more realistic.
Yeah, it wasn't oh, this is delightful.
Oh, the fairy granted me a puppet child. No, it's crazy.
It's I've been drinking way too much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he wakes up, and this stuff. There's a knife that's being flung around, and it's very Del Toro and funny in that dark humor. prisoner, but he locks him up and is like, I got to go to church. Stay in there. Well, he gets out, and this is where Sebastian starts singing the song.
Yeah.
And then Pinocchio's like, nope, hits him with the door or whatever and runs off to church. But then he goes into church and they're all like possessed. It's a demon.
Yeah,
I did like
Which
that
is
part.
just-
It's a demon.
hilarious. But that's what people would do, right?
Yeah, if
Like,
you saw a walking, talking puppet,
Right.
I'd be like, hey, I've seen 4 of these movies.
this is before technology. This is the 1930s, so obviously it's
There's
not
technology.
Well, I know. I was about to clarify. So it's the technology of the day is very simplistic. So like they wouldn't know anything about robots or animatronics. And so at this time period, what are people going to do in church, especially? Right. They're going to say Satan sent this. So that was very funny. And somehow, like this is the part that I thought was the least believable of the whole puppets coming to life and all that, is that the Ron Perlman character is like, yeah, just send him to school and stuff. It's like,
he'll be
would they not just destroy that demon creature? And
He'll
it's
be a
like-
perfect soldier.
Right. But even
Send
before
him-
that, it's like, how did they let Geppetto? Because Geppetto's like, it's a puppet. But it's like, no, you explain that. How is that a puppet? And then they're all just like, oh, well, just, keep his nose clean.
Send him to school.
Like, so I'm like, okay, that's a little weird because in this time period and with that character, I'm like, he would be firewood in 2 seconds.
Oh, for sure. And
But-
he does become firewood at one
Well,
point. He
yeah.
sets his own feet on fire.
But so he he's supposed to go to school, and when he's going to school, then this is just like when the bat, I don't know what those guys are called in the Disney version, but the fox and the cat or whatever,
Oh,
they
yeah.
find him and they're like, oh, you need to come smoke cigars and hang out with the boys or whatever. And so basically Volpe, the bad guy, he follows the monkey, and then Volpe is like, oh, well, I guess you can go to school, but we're going to have unlimited
Of all this fun.
ice cream and whatever,
Yeah.
and all this stuff. And
Hot chocolate.
oh yeah, and Pinocchio's like, well, I guess school can wait for me, and so he gets roped into that. It's the same kind of thing, and he's got his existence at the circus.
It follows almost the exact same
because the
beats.
story of Pinocchio,
Yeah.
right? So it's the
And
same.
that story's not as old as I thought. It was originally written in 1883.
Oh,
Okay.
Do you remember reading the first edition?
I
in
do.
School?
It was. We were all a buzz.
It was 5 bits.
Yes.
How much I could have paid for that.
You
No, it
got
was-
your shave and a haircut, and then
it
the 2
was-
bits
the
you
2
took to
bits,
the
yeah.
It was
right.
3 farthings. Thank you very much.
a penny feather or something.
Yeah,
I don't
right,
remember
right.
Those
It-
old timey.
But yeah, I think it from there on out, with the exception of going to like war camp instead of the island of Pleasure Island.
Which I thought was a really cool, like the scene when they're practicing for war and they're running around and he makes kids with the Candlewick kid, the bad
Yeah.
guy's son. Like, I just thought there were some really cool action type scenes. I mean, the movement in this for being stop motion animation
that
is
is the-
incredible.
That I will say, and I mentioned at the beginning, like not that it took me out of it, which it didn't, but there were moments where I was like,
You just want to focus on the artistry.
That's exactly
and not
it.
enjoy it as a unit.
yeah,
It's mesmerizing.
it is.
It
It
really,
is absolutely astounding to see the detail on, like even like I was looking at like Geppetto's beard.
Oh my
where
gosh.
it's like just like little. It's
the way they
unbelievable.
move every little hair and
which I thought was
eyebrow
interesting is that they had for the human characters is they had a silicone like overlay over like an animatronic face, so they could with great detail like move like an eyebrow up or just give it different types of emotion.
I believe they're called maquettes is what
Is
these,
that what it is?
In stop motion animation, what they use is maquettes. And so Pinocchio is fully 3D printed, which is interesting because there's so much detail. Those are 3D
he's
printed.
I think they said he's the first
full 3D
full
printed.
3D and it's kind of funny. Like there's scenes where they have what you don't realize is when it's Pinocchio and Jiminy Cricket.
Who?
Sebastian.
Oh, okay. I
Jay
didn't know who you were
Cricket.
referring to there for a second.
They have a Pinocchio head that is like the size of this table.
You might have seen that online. That he posted a picture
Oh,
on
did he?
Instagram or Twitter a while back where he's got a huge.
It's a massive Pinocchio
That's
head.
what they have to do to get some of the stuff, depending on the backgrounds and what they're working with. Sometimes they have to film things really big on a huge set to make it look like it's
Right.
small. It's interesting how they have all the different
And
scale.
you know that Pinocchio head is in Del Toro's house.
Oh, yeah.
With sitting right next
Valentine's
to
Day, they sit on top of it. and
I
make
think a lot of people celebrate Valentine's Day with head.
One would hope. Depends on how long you've been married.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Or your birthday, I guess. Yeah.
So, but the Pinocchio has interchangeable faces. And again, watch the making.
It's
of, 'cause
it's
there's a ton of stuff,
unbelievable.
but,
It's
but
unbelievable.
like they don't make him like cartoonishly. His cheeks don't grow. They don't make like animation sometimes accentuates features that aren't realistic, but to get the point across
Right.
with what the character is doing. But with him, it's just the
It's
face.
his- it's
the
his
same
eyes and
shape,
his mouth. Like,
Eyes and
that's-
mouth.
that's it.
And the different characters are like Geppetto, where they mold the different skin that's on top of the mechanics
Yeah.
and everything.
It is
It is incredible.
if this has to win. Like I don't know. It's funny. Like we talked about what was that? The Queen movie.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Thank you.
Oh,
where it's just
The
like
Crown.
No, not that
Yeah,
one. The other
like,
one.
I think-
the other Queen.
It's on TV, so it must be a movie.
Depends.
That's called a callback.
Do they sing in it? That has something to do with it.
Yeah. Well, but my point is like that the Bohemian Rhapsody got nominated for all kinds of stuff, and the fact that he won, and then you come back a year later, and Taron Egerton, who I feel like put in, I'm not gonna bag on Rami Malek, but I do feel like Taron Egerton put in more work and more time into his portrayal of Elton John, and actually sung the songs and didn't win. But when you have something like this that is going up against the powerhouse that is Disney and Pixar,
But there's nothing. What would be the Disney and Pixar from
Strange
this year?
Planet,
Nope.
Turning Red.
Turning Red.
I mean,
I'm not saying that, like, but you asked like those.
I mean, Turning Red's good, but like they don't have anything. I don't think they can compete with this.
There's nothing
From an animation standpoint, yes. From a story standpoint,
I think
like this just doesn't.
so.
gel.
When it gets
I think they'll
nominated,
give it to them for the artistry behind it. Though.
would not
Even-
surprise me.
You know,
you don't
Yeah.
think it would? Well, it could not win Best Animated Feature, but Best Visual Effects, right?
that's true. But I think you know, Beauty and the Beast won the first one, right? And that pushed the boundaries with the 3D animation. I'm not saying they always give it to animation, but when you push the medium, and this certainly, I mean, Leica's been doing it for a long time, and they deserve way
Did
more
they do
credit.
Koba,
Yep, Koba, Coraline.
Monster House? Not Monster
No,
House.
not Monster House. The Missing Link, which was great with Hugh
Yeah,
Jackman and Zach
yeah.
Galifianakis. I think there's another one in there that I'm not. But I mean, they're incredible. They're the ones that are known for it, and this is on that level where like
Phew.
Leica is doing incredible work, and they're doing the work. Like I've never heard of Jim Henson for stop motion.
Right.
You know, like I mean, that's not their thing.
They're
thing
puppetry.
is
I mean, I know it's a type of puppet, but it's a different type of puppet.
But to that point, I think that is why they're here, right? Because Jim Henson has always been on the front lines of innovation, sort of.
Sure.
You know,
no, not sort of.
right? Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's I didn't like.
Yeah,
I wasn't.
So so puppet shows were puppets that they'd be in a box, right? And I'm talking about a puppet show you see in real life, and
Yeah.
they'd, you know,
yodelay, yodelay, yodelay.
yeah, and you know, because they evolved out of Punch and Judy and things like that, right? And Henson's real revelation on TV was that the TV was the box,
Yeah.
right? And so he's like, as long as you're outside of the frame, it opens up a whole new world because you can use the TV to hide things.
It's like they're underneath, just like in
Right.
a puppet show, you'd be underneath or
Right,
behind. That's where the
because before that, puppet shows on TV, you'd see the box that they were in.
Oh.
They'd film a puppet show.
string singing
And-
from the top,
Yeah, and
like Mr. Rogers, right? He
yeah.
would even have
Was Mr. Rogers on top, or that wasn't underneath?
Oh.
Hey, now
but you could still
It's a whole different discussion.
But
he's too wholesome. Don't do that.
but like Kukla, Fran, and Ollie, like they would
Yeah,
film, you know,
missionary for that's obviously Mr. Rogers is only missionary.
Right.
There's nothing.
Reverse missionary. Get out of here.
But Henson's big revelation was like, oh, I don't need to create the box. The TV's the box, and
Sure,
so
sure.
then I can do all sorts of crazy stuff, which is what made the Muppets so revolutionary. So yeah, no, he was definitely.
But I think
They're working
It, like now that now that
Labyrinth
concept is it like you're like, but of course, right?
Oh,
it's
sure.
so obvious, but it wasn't obvious to people. Like, you know, another thing that's like that, Candid Camera, right? For the first, well, it started off on
What do you
radio.
mean, punked?
It was Candid. It was Candid Microphone originally.
No
Oh,
way.
really?
Yeah, and then they moved it to TV, and it was just a flop. Like, and then it would move to another network, and it would flop. And then they finally, because people were like, "This show's mean." People didn't like the show. They're like, "You're mean. This is cruel." You know how they finally got people around the idea of the show being mean?
No.
Is they added a thing at the end where they would take the guy that they were
Mean too.
mean to, and they'd be like, ha ha ha, like there's a camera over there. We were just being silly. And then the guy would laugh, right?
It's okay.
We would call that the reveal. They would do the reveal. But like for the first
Prestige.
for the first 10 years, there was no reveal. Oh,
so you're just like,
the
this
show,
poor guy.
the show kind of floundered. Like it did okay. And when they finally added the reveal and they let the guy in on the joke,
Okay.
now people loved it.
I got you.
But like, you can't imagine doing a show like that, because now there's so many knockoffs, right? Punked and
All of, I mean, now it's a trend on TikTok.
YouTube.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you can't imagine doing that without the reveal.
That's
right. It
crazy.
seems
Yeah.
dumb that like you're like, but of course you would do that.
I
But-
gotta tell
but
you,
not of course.
There are some punked ones.
Justin Timberlake
The Justin Timberlake one
is
is,
pissed.
dude. There's a Stone Cold Steve Austin one.
Oh, was he?
Oh, and they punked him, and they did two. They did The Rock, Triple H, and Austin, who I feel like two of the three of those guys are two guys you don't want to make angry. And the Steve Austin one, like, it's funny because Wrestling Corner, real quick.
Oh, we already knew.
Yeah, he like that character, the Steve Austin character, is Steve Austin just turned up a little bit.
Right.
Like there's nothing much. There's no difference between. So when this guy is like being a punk to Steve Austin, you can tell it got that dial got turned up back up to 11, and I was like, oh man, like this is terrifying. And the Triple H one is also, he was trying to be very diplomatic, but he was fine. He was getting to a point where it's like, hey, knock whatever was going, is like, stop doing what you're doing. And like he has this look on his face. I was like, no, I'm gonna stop doing what I'm doing.
Were you punking him?
No,
Were you on there with Wilmer and
Wilmer and
Ashton, whoever else?
did they
Dax?
leave?
Was Dax?
Dax? That's where Dax Shepard started.
Right?
Yeah,
And Punked,
yeah,
yeah.
on Punked.
Was it punked? It wasn't something before.
No, it was Punked.
Was it, okay.
Yeah, because I mean they were all coming off of that 70s show.
Yeah.
Like I think that 70s show was still
Okay.
going on. Either way, but like when it comes to when you talk about puppets, I would consider these puppets. Like there's this weird,
Yeah, I mean, it's
there's
a
a
different
weird
type
cross.
of-
Like it's an evolved puppet
For sure. And that's why it's
which could be why Henson was brought in, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe Henson. What was that awful puppet movie that we saw like 2 years ago?
the
3 years
Brian
ago?
Henson one
The
with
Brian,
Melissa
yeah,
McCarthy.
it was terrible.
Happy Time Murders,
Yes.
or that should have been amazing on
Should have
paper.
been
and
outstanding, but it was atrocious.
Ugh.
But I do think that like they brought Henson in because maybe Henson was already working on whatever version of the Henson company that is, was already working on something like this.
Yeah, I mean,
to-
we know
to
they're
step that up.
We know it's an incredible company with a history of innovation. So for sure, but so there's like the thing with the war. All the kids go off to war for Italy, and then Pinocchio doesn't want to hurt anyone, and him and Candlewick become friends. But then the dad is like, nope, there can only be one winner.
He's
Shoot
like,
him,
shoot the puppet.
Right.
and then a bomb comes and blows him up, and then everyone's all
Yeah, I mean, it just at this post-war, it is Pinocchio, right? Like Pinocchio Geppetto gets sucked into the whale, or in this one, it's a dogfish.
Yeah.
Pinocchio goes after
He's
him.
been in there, living there fishing in the bile,
which I was
and-
like, I'm sure that fish tastes great.
yeah, he and
Hells
Jiminy,
yeah.
but
Who?
oh, yeah, Sebastian.
But
Is it really J Cricket? I thought it was T for some reason.
no, it's Jay.
No, it's Jay.
J?
But I will say, like, to me, the
Simpson
MVP.
J Cat.
Yeah. Ewan McGregor, man, that dude is, in my opinion, like the most versatile actor like in Hollywood.
He's really good. He can do a lot.
But that's what I'm like. He can sing. He can do the like. He
Right?
gets how to do voice work.
I was like, oh
Right?
yeah, Moulin Rouge.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that one you ever saw? I know you like Romeo and
I
Juliet.
love Romeo and Juliet so
But
much.
Moulin Rouge? Did you go to any other dates? for that one?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Oh, okay.
No. But
But do you think of him like Train Spotting? He hit the map.
Or
and-
you think I think of Fargo. Like if you haven't seen not the third season of Fargo, which is amazing.
But, and he's The Shining 2.
Oh, Dr. Sleep.
Dr. Sleep.
Dr. Sleep, he's good. Now. Like he can do.
But then he comes back and does
and then
Obi-Wan.
he does Obi-Wan,
And it's like this. I liked it. I totally
okay.
I totally get the. To
he
me,
wasn't the problem, but it's
to
just
me
that.
series lives and dies on that last episode, and that when you get the showdown between Vader and Obi-Wan, and you're like, yeah,
Should have made it a TV special.
it did take us a while to get
It's
there.
like,
That
oh,
is
boy.
true. That is true.
You know what? The thing with that series, I didn't hate it, but I also was like, oh my God, this is dragging on for so little happening. But I'm like, you know what? What a world that we got this. We got an Obi-Wan show starring Ewan McGregor from the 1999 Star Wars movie.
The
Like,
most.
Hey, when I was a kid, all we had in between Star Wars movies were Starlog and Bantha Trash.
And you got that sweet holiday special.
Yeah.
But we have The Mandalorian, a Boba Fett show, an Obi-Wan with Ewan McGregor show. Like, I just am like, thank you that we have this. It's like, it's cool that it exists.
Hey, that, like I said, that it took a while to get there, but that final showdown was insane.
Yeah.
And it was great. But that's my point, though, is like the dude can do the voice work, and he knows how to do voice work.
Yeah, he
it
can
doesn't
sing.
sound like an actor doing a voice,
No,
right?
I thought he was good.
He can sing, he can be dramatic, he can be funny. He's deceptively funny. I think
He's very versatile. I
dry.
agree.
very dry,
Yeah.
but then he can come back and do Obi-Wan and do this action flick. So to me, he's the MVP of this entire thing. Like
He's really good.
And I think they even say in that doc, they're like, Del Toro, I think, said that he had recorded, I don't know, like half of his dialogue, and then Del Toro was like, he's the main character.
Yeah.
And they rewrote it. They rewrote stuff to put Sebastian into the movie more so that Ewan McGregor could do more work.
You know what you can't do really easily is cut up animations, like add things to animation.
Yeah.
That's like when Katzenberg came in and the Black Cauldron was like halfway made.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, let's just cut this 30 minutes. And they're like, that took us a
what?
year to make. You can't just like add what? Like with animation, that's tough. Like making the bad guy and then him being like, I like Voltaire or whatever.
Christoph Waltz is this guy now.
Yeah, here and there, and I guess if you're working on other stuff, fine, but you can't do a ton of it.
No.
You got to be careful with that.
Yeah,
But,
that's what
I think it worked out well. Whatever he decided to change up,
I think he
it was a good
just
balance.
added more to it.
Yeah.
He didn't cut anything out.
He thickened it.
Yes, he gave Sebastian
But which is hard
more
though,
to
because then
do.
they got to animate new scenes and
Right.
whatever he was doing before. If they had to cut, So, but I think it was a good balance. I think
Well, there was like those 4 scenes where Sebastian is just on Zoom.
That's right.
He's like, "Don't do it, Pinocchio.
The pandemic of 1930.
Don't do it." The flu was lingering.
Yeah, it was still sticking
Yeah.
around.
So
But,
they get to the dogfish. How does Pinocchio get there?
they're on. He gets like rocketed out from the war,
Okay.
and then he ends up like he gets sucked up. We see the boat. He sees his dad, and then this is it's Pinocchio.
Right.
It's the exact same thing.
It is.
The only thing that's different is he doesn't become a real boy. The sprite just is like, cool, you're back to being a wooden boy now for the rest of for all millennia.
Yeah.
Well,
Good luck.
This is really interesting.
But
though.
they were
So
kind of like, but you understand life now, and like maybe
Yeah.
you kind of are a real boy, but not really.
But not really.
It's
But
cool.
in
This-
spirit.
it's a cool twist. So
Yeah.
they get swallowed, or he gets swallowed by the dogfish. Sees Geppetto. They are able to escape because he lies, which I thought was cool. And they used his
Isn't that how the
nose
Disney
growing.
one? Isn't that how the Disney one does it?
I don't exactly remember, but I mean it's a little different. Like the way he grew his nose into a tree, and
I
they
will say
climbed
this
over
one
it.
this nose is not as phallic as the Disney version.
But it grows into like tree branches, and they're climbing it out, and then they eventually are able to escape it. But from the war, there's all these bombs set up around the water, and they are trying to escape the dogfish. It swallows one.
they Jaws it. This is the ending of Jaws.
Yeah,
Yeah, of course. The Jaws has the
true.
thing in his mouth. And,
Yeah.
That's
and-
true, yeah.
And Brody shoots the
Shoots it,
thing
yeah.
and blows him up. It's the same ending.
So Pinocchio goes up and smacks the mine or whatever, the circle with the
It's a mine,
bombs.
you're
You know
right.
what?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he smacks it, they explode, but then Geppetto goes underwater. Pinocchio, quote unquote, dies and goes to the little purgatory area. And like Tom said, the hourglass is getting longer, and he can't get back soon enough to save Geppetto, who's drowning.
Right.
And the sprite says, "Well, you can go back, but if you do, that's the last time. You're going to be mortal." And he's learned his lesson, and this is the growth of the character, and he's become a good person, and he cares about Geppetto and sees him as the father and all that. So he's like, I don't care, send me back. And so he goes back, saves Geppetto, but he drowns in the process.
Right.
And then at this point,
The second sprite shows back up, and Jiminy, God dang it, Sebastian was like, he taught me this and he taught me that, and maybe all right. So I taught him
Well, he
that
made
first,
a
but
deal.
then he taught me
He's-
that.
If he was to be the conscience, basically, as we know from the first one, if he's to teach him right from wrong, turn him into a good boy, he gets one wish, whatever he wants. And so he's like, I get that wish. And she's like, did you really teach him anything? He's like, I don't know, but he's good, and that's all that matters.
He got here.
He did
Yeah.
the best, and that's all you can
That's
do.
all you can do. And he says, I wish him to be alive. And she said, okie dokie.
Yeah.
And then everybody else around Pinocchio dies.
So it's a different twist on it. He gave him back
But it
to
is
immortality.
as when Geppetto dies, I was like, oh, like
when the graves pop up 1 and 2 and then
I was
3.
like, this might be the second most Del Toro thing in this entire movie. The first one obviously being like the creature designs,
Yeah.
but the like sort of happy ending, but
But they got
kicking,
to live-
kicking the ending at the same
But
time.
he got to live with all, Geppetto lived his life out until old
Yeah.
age, which like Geppetto got older. I'm like, that Geppetto is old.
Yeah, I mean, he was pretty old to start
He was
with.
an old dude.
But apparently he got older.
Which
and
means
then-
he lasted about 6 months.
Yeah, right. I don't know. But the monkey dies, or Jiminy dies, and then you see the monkey. Damn it. Sebastian J. Cricket dies.
We'll have a Jiminy jar, like
Yes,
a swear
yeah,
jar.
right.
We do, right? It's hard not to because
No, it's-
that's what I mean is that the 1942 whatever Pinocchio 1940 maybe, it's so ingrained into our culture. I mean, you're talking about we're now 80 years removed,
Yeah.
80 plus years, 80.
Oh, yeah.
80. That is a long
But
time.
I mean, like
that movie's
that's
existed.
the thing
in-
about those Disney characters, right? Is it's almost impossible to get any sort of different version because Disney did such a pretty fantastic job of integrating those characters
Right.
into our.
They are.
But we've gotten lots of different versions.
Like what?
There was a TV musical version with Mickey Rooney.
No,
there's
there
a Rankin
wasn't.
Bass version.
But how-
from
okay,
1960.
but no one
okay.
knows them though.
But
Disney has stood the test of time.
But the like if I say Pinocchio,
Everyone
right.
thinks
we think
Disney.
of
Yes,
the Disney
but I'm just saying,
version.
but people have remade this a lot.
Yeah, and,
And
we
I guess
mentioned a
he
bunch,
is
but-
he is a major character in Shrek.
Yeah.
but what you're saying though, when you think of Little Mermaid, like that's a hundreds of year old Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale. It's not Disney's Little. I mean, that's their version of it, but no one thinks that. It's Little Mermaid is Disney.
Yeah,
everyone
I mean,
goes to the Disney.
Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, Snow
all
White,
of them,
all
yeah.
of them,
and they're all
yeah.
fairy tales from before. And so you're right. Disney has done such an amazing job that it's hard not to think of that. But now when they say Pinocchio, I'm telling you, this one's going to stick around in my mind. I'll always know the Disney Pinocchio, but this, where the other ones haven't even been a challenger, like this is a challenger to stand out as.
It's definitely, yeah. And we jokingly said that it's kind of the Jungle Book thing who did that other one? Was it
circus.
Was it Andy
Yeah.
Serkis that did that?
Yeah.
And it was real bad because the other one was so good.
Yeah.
Right?
Was it Favreau?
It was
that did-
Favreau.
Yeah.
Favreau, and that was the one where like, hey man, you guys, if you're gonna keep making them like this, you remake all them movies. You remake every single one of those animated movies, and we're in.
But that
And we-
Circus Jungle Book was not.
It
And like,
was
that was so.
real
And it was
bad.
so different. I know they were probably taking more from the book, but whatever
this is-
story they were telling was like.
But to me, this one is flipped, where Disney remade their Pinocchio, and it wasn't like that.
they're
didn't-
doing- they're
that didn't even get talked about. Like
that
it was
came
here
and
and
went
gone.
so fast. Well, and that's the thing. Like, I'm a huge Disney person. I know Tom's a Disney
Yeah.
person. Did you watch it?
Which one?
Pinocchio?
No.
I didn't
With
watch it
Tom
either.
Hanks.
We're
Like,
both,
Tom Hanks
we're both
as
Disney
Geppetto.
people, and
Yeah.
we're just like, what?
There's
It
so
just-
much to watch.
That's also true.
Yeah.
But
That's
it's
also
weird
true.
that Disney would come out with a remake like Disney of a
Right.
huge beloved character. But I mean, yeah, I
Not
mean, I'll
even
watch
in
it
theaters.
someday. But
I don't think that went to theaters.
no, it was
No,
a
it
Disney
did.
Straight to
Plus.
Disney Plus.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is it's crazy that we're at the point in time where Disney's making so much stuff where you can bury the remake of a great animated thing. But you're right. Like this, they flipped it, and now Del Toro. I mean, certainly from what I've heard, I haven't seen the remake like we said, but this version, from all accounts, is far superior.
And this is what I will say: is it is absolutely worth your time to watch this, just for
The look.
the look,
Yeah.
and just watching everything move and
I
watching.
think it's a sweet, moving story, thoe. Like I
hear
don't think
you.
it's not worth it for the story. But
I think the story is, to me, like second nature.
Yeah.
I don't need like looking at the way that they made this. I think the making of Doc
It's like an
is
Yngwie
astounding.
Malmsteen record.
I
He's a
will
great
take your-
technical player, but there's not a lot of melody.
I heard the words that you were saying,
Yeah.
but I don't know what any of them mean.
So anyway, I guess that's it for this one. Let's go around the table and everyone can say where to find them.
This is Joe. You can follow me on the Twitter at Joey Butts, BUTTS21.
this is Kevin. You can follow me on Twitter at Kevin R. Brackett.
And this is Tom. You can follow me on Twitter at Roger Kubert or on Facebook at facebook.com/Tom O'Keefe. You can find the show online, facebook.com/Real Spoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group. And of course, don't forget our Patreon, patreon.com/Real Spoilers. So that's it for this one. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, Bambi's mother gets shot.
Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, cause we already warned you.